And we're live.
Yay.
Yay.
Hello, everybody. Hello,
Yes.
hello. So, while we wait for people to join us live on Facebook and YouTube, just a quick reminder, this is going to be recorded and it will go up on our YouTube channel where people can check it out and watch it later if they don't have time tonight, or watch parts of it tonight, watch all of it later, whatever you want to do. But while we wait for people to log on, first I just want to say thank you so much to our special guest tonight, Miss Lauri, who is here to
Yes.
join us. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we're going to have some great topics to talk about tonight. But before we get started, we normally like to go around and just introduce ourselves. So first, I'm going to introduce Epicedium as a team. We were founded a few years ago, a group of experienced paranormal investigators whose primary purpose is a client-based team. So we help people who reach out to us that have a problem in their business or home. Number one priority is to help them. And secondary to that, our priority is research and understanding of the unknown. And our idea of the unknown is not just, the typical ghosties that, paranormal groups like to talk about, but it's also anything out in the universe that we're not sure about. So that can include aliens, cryptozoology, elementals, energy work, like we're going to be talking about tonight. So we really emphasize doing this outreach program so that people can learn, talk, and communicate in an open and honest atmosphere. So I myself, my name is Gail. I'm one of the founders of Epicedium, and I'm glad to be here with everyone tonight. Brittany?
I'm also a founder. And yeah, I love being on Epicedium. I love researching and going into different locations and just learning everything I can possibly learn off of theories on anything of the unknown. So, Kimmy?
I am Kimmy, and you can call me Kim. I am also a founder of Epicedium, and I'm excited to be here with Lauri tonight.
Yay.
Yay.
Now our special guest is Lauri-Sophia Rose.
Yay.
Thank you.
So thank you for being with us tonight. Before we delve into a lot of our more probing questions, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how your background and how you got into doing spiritual work?
Sure. Well, I'm a spiritual reader and a spiritual teacher, mostly what and healer as well. And mostly what I focus on is the soul evolution and ascension. And I do sessions that I call Akashic and soul alchemy sessions, where we dive into the stories of the soul through multiple life journeys. And I work with the guides of people's souls in the Akashic Records to bring about healing for any soul stories or any pain or unresolved issues, to sort of bring healing and comfort and wisdom to individuals. It's all about transformation and becoming closer to oneself and understanding one's own divinity, because we are, in a way, we're walking we're walking home to our God self and uncovering the layers and layers of stories that we've been carrying around for lifetimes to discover our divine self. So that's my role. I also do some healing within those sessions, and healing is a separate modality. So in terms of my background, it started when I was a child. I saw angels and spirits. I was one of those children who was afraid of my own shadow because I had seen spirits and stuff. And for me, as it happens for a lot of people, but not all people, when they see spirits and as children, some of us tend to close the door on that. And that's what I did around the time of 12. And, but I did a lot of inner work and stuff when I was a teenager, and became a hypnotist. as a result of seeing my mother quit smoking and then receive tremendous healing when she was dying of cancer many years later. And that started my path in taking Reiki. A matter of fact, the time I took Reiki, I just heard a voice outside of myself that said, take Reiki. And my initial reaction was, oh, that's a good idea. I think I will. And then I stopped and thought about it and sort of came back to my human mind. And I go, wait a minute, what is Reiki and who's talking to me? So that was my experience. That was probably 2003, I think. So I took Reiki, and then I ended up taking healing touch and some other healing modalities and mixed it up with hypnosis, which I ended up taking because I saw my mother be healed of tremendous pain while she had cancer. And then I discovered the soul and the Akashic Records, and that kind of brought me to my knees because I knew that was my space. That was what I was looking for since I was a teenager. So I work in the space of really the soul and healing and bringing people back to their divine selves and helping them heal themselves.
Well, I know I personally, because, you and I have had a few sessions together where we were able to interact pre-pandemic in person, which was lovely.
Yeah.
And I know I personally, and the other people I've been around when we've had sessions with you, we kind of all have the same reaction when we're just like, you feel just so calm, afterwards. You have this sense, it's definitely a therapeutic sense of, wow, okay, I feel good now. In that regard, I thank you. And I can attest to the power of everything you just spoke of, because it's tremendous. It's very tremendous. So thank you.
Well, I actually, I can't remember everybody's sessions, but I remember meeting you and Brittany. I still remember the first time, and you two really stayed with me. So I knew there was a connection there, and I saw your tremendous power, and so I knew would it. I just felt it. And I also felt a little motherly towards you anyway. So not you need another mother because you both have great mothers, but
I love it.
You did get to meet her mom, so that was fantastic.
I did. It was a couple of years later, but I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
It was.
It was a good time. So speaking to those sessions and to energy work, to those of us who might not necessarily have the same gift as you, sometimes it kind of, I don't want to use the word perplex, but it eludes us as to the sensation or the feelings from your point of view of how these energies come forward to you. So when you're doing a session, could you explain what it's like to be able to sense those energies around you and in other people?
Well, when I do readings, I tap in through, a prayer, but I also just naturally, by being invited into somebody's space, by having a conversation with them, it's just, we have the clairs, CLAIR, and there's clairvoyance, which is seeing, through the third eye, having a vague visual of something, and clairvoyance, clairaudience, which is a hearing. So I'm clairaudience, I'm clairvoyant. Clairsentient is my strongest suit, which is a feeling. That's the one that I've always had. The other ones came about over time. And then the claircognizance, which is just a knowing, and you don't know how you know something, but you just do. And so over time, the more inner work that I've done, because the work I do with other people, I think I've done half-hour sessions with you guys. I mostly do hour-and-a-half sessions now because it's a deeper dive, and we clear out a lot of stuff. And I do that work for myself regularly. So clearing away, thoughts or emotions that may be not of the highest, energy for myself, or holding me back from something. So I do that work for myself. And when you do, it's peeling the layers of like the onion back till you get to your core. Because we're all meant to have these gifts. This is not special for a certain group of people. We all have them. It's just a matter of doing the work and discovering them. And so that's what I've done, and I continue to do my work, and there's more unfolding with the clairvoyance and clairsentience and all of that. So that's how it's come about. Now, when I do energy healing, I can feel energy. So if I were to run my hand over somebody's body, or just sense their energy, 6 inches to a foot out of their body, I can sense where there's blockages in their body just by, I can feel the resistance, or I can feel the energy feels a little heavy or clouded to me. Where in other places it might feel lighter or smoother. So that's where I know to work on the energy. And I know which chakra or point of energy within the body it's attached to. And when you know that, you become familiar with sort of the language or the energy of that energy. If it's lower back issues, for instance, it's carrying a burden. It might be financial issues, because we carry that in our lower back. If it's in the heart area, it's either going to be heart pain of loss. In the lungs, we hold grief, for instance. So it might be grief. So that's how I know what people might be going through on an emotional level, because the physical and emotional are very connected. And oftentimes the physical issues start in the emotional. So.
Makes sense.
sense.
And Brittany.
Was that for me?
We always say the same thing.
Yeah, Britt.
You are like twins from different mothers. You really are.
We always put around that she's like, we're like the light and dark side, like the yin and yang of like. I really appreciate what you're saying, especially in terms of not only the chakras and balance, but also of the clair senses, because I feel the clair senses are things that a lot of people talk about as of late, have become somewhat well known. Most people know the 4 major ones, but some say there's up to 8 or 10 of them. And I think most people don't realize, we might be more attuned to one more than the other, but we all have access to all of them. It's just a matter of putting the practice in to learn them.
Right. It's like playing in a band. If you ever were in a band in high school, for instance, you were given the flute, let's say, because you were given it in 6th grade. That's what they told you to play, or you came to it because you loved it, right? And somebody else is playing the clarinet. It doesn't mean you can't play the clarinet. You may be able to play the clarinet. You just choose the flute because you're more passionate about it, and you shine more in that. And so that's what we tend to do. We tend to pick our instruments or modalities based on our passions or what we're drawn to. And so, but we all have gifts. We all have the ability to play all the instruments in the, in the band. It's just what we choose to follow. And that's the same thing in our spiritual, even our human existence. It's following our passion is the most important thing we can do, because our intuition and our internal GPS system is tied into that. So where our passion is where we're going to see, and feel and experience abundance and spiritual support for success and abundance in those areas. So if we're following a path that doesn't resonate with us, we're not likely to experience full abundance. We may make a lot of money in a particular job and not be happy with it. but that's not really abundance. That's just one area of abundance, the financial prosperity. So when I talk about abundance, I mean joy and happiness and contentment, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. The bigger picture, not the day-to-day
Right.
life stuff, but the
Right.
bigger. Well, you kind of tapped into our next
Right,
question,
right.
but
Right.
we'll let
Mm-hmm.
I think Kimmy just kind of wanted to maybe go into that a little bit deeper, or no? She answered
Um,
the question?
well, when
Sure.
performing energy work, how do you tap into your clients? Which we just kind of, went over. Do you channel it, or how would you explain that? Which you sort of kind of just answered that.
You're killing me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I do is,
Well, she did, but
what I do first is, oh, I'm sorry. What I do first is I ground my energy. So
okay.
I literally just take some time. I actually imagine a big, like as you go down and you have to ground your energy. And I imagine, a big oak tree to the ground, and I do that first. And then I just sit, close my eyes for a few moments. I'll either say a prayer that I can access somebody's Akashic Records, and I only do that with their approval. Um, and other times, if I'm just talking to somebody may ask me a question, and I'm kind of in their energy space by their invitation, and can just sense or
Mhm.
feel or just know. But I do channel. I do channel what we call the hierarchy of light. My primary guide is Saint Germain, and although I work with many other ascended masters and angels, as well as galactic beings. And so I connect with Saint Germain first. I connect with my divine I am presence first, which is I connect with that at my soul star, which is the eighth chakra. So it's about a foot or a foot and a half above our head. And that's what I access with the Akashic Records. So that's the God essence with us. That's the first place I go. And then I connect with other beings. But if I want a connection with say the hierarchy of light in general, I'll connect with Saint Germain first, who will bring forth other energies as needed.
It's so cool.
Did that
Yes.
answer your question, Kim?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay.
So, would you consider Saint Germain to be one of your guides, or do you not believe that angels and saints can be spirit guides? Just random question.
Um, yeah, the energy of Saint Germain is my primary guide, and so when I do, readings for people, um, he'll bring through whatever guide is needed, or whatever guide is around those individuals. But there's times I work a lot with Mother Mary. I work with a lot of the divine feminine beings, the goddess Isis, for instance,
Yes,
um,
I.
Mary Magdalene, um, Archangel Metatron. Yeah, we got a shout out for the divine feminine, right? Archangel Metatron, a whole bunch of different beings. So
Hmm.
it depends what people need who are with them and what I need at any particular time. So,
Makes sense.
Definitely.
and sometimes Saint Germain will step out for a while and I'm with other guides, for a while, but he's the constant presence, the primary constant presence with me.
Almost like you're a gatekeeper in a sense.
Yes, that's a great way to put him. Yes. Yeah.
I dig it.
Interesting.
Okay, so right now there's a lot of speculation that the world is going through some sort of mass spiritual awakening. Do you believe this to
Mhm.
be the case personally?
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely. There's no doubt about it. What's happening in our political system, what's happening in a lot of systems. It's, for change to happen, there's often a lot of chaos before transformation occurs. And so
Mm.
we're in that period of chaos. And, which brings up a lot of fear for people. And the change that's occurring is actually very, very good. It's very empowering. It doesn't feel that way. But when we hold on to our faith, when we hold on to, defining energy, um, that's when we can stay grounded. That's when we can stay with what is real. When we pay attention too much to the news, um, we can get caught up in the drama of what's going on. And, a lot of it is, of course, manufactured fear. So it's never, ever good. And whatever we pay attention to is what we empower. So if we're paying attention to a lot of the chaos, we can actually, as a community or as a collective, actually empower the fear. But likewise, we can empower the love by doing the same. I run regular meditations for peace and love for that purpose, just to add some more of that energy to the world. Because we're coming into a very, very empowered state, not only individually, but collectively. And it's the whole peace, love, and tie dye, that in the 60s, people were looking forward to. And so the change that's happening in the world is reflective of the collective inner work that's happening, the collective fears or the collective peace. And so we're just seeing what's on the outer is already on the inner. And so when people ask that question about, sort of this change, that, the message I got the other night when I was meditating is um, the is on the inner plane. And that's really the best way to put it. So for people to focus too much on the drama in the political world is is probably not the right thing to do. The best thing is to focus on what's going on the inside. What are the fears that it's bringing up? What are the emotions that it's bringing up? And really looking at those emotions, because that's what the outer is doing to us. It's forcing us to look at the inner and look at what our emotions are and look at what our fears are, and to deal with that honestly and not to be afraid of those. And when we do that, it's like bringing the darkness into the light.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, like just acknowledging a sadness or an upset, a feeling of rejection, just acknowledging that part of ourselves that's holding that space, that energy, is enough to bring it into the light. And the light is who we are. It's not the light outside of us, it's the light within us. And so that's how we can become more empowered, and that's how we can individually and collectively move through, all of this chaos, which may be the next few years, until it begins to settle down. So the earth is doing the same thing. Snow in Texas,
Yeah.
earthquakes and all of that. The earth Gaia is just detoxing. And so are we.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've actually, this past few weeks, recently started reading a book regarding yoga and the different sutras. And so far, what I've gotten out of it, I don't know, I'm sure you are, but I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of it, because most people hear yoga, they think, the physical act of yoga, the different movements. And it's actually much
Right.
more of a emotional and psychological kind of way of life. And what you just spoke about, the inner light, is literally kind of the core of it. It's clearing what they refer to as your heart mind, which is this part of you, to reach the inner light on the inside, to allow it to shine out. And then there's another light, you know, the kind of universal light that we can all tap into outside of that. So I find it very, what's the word I'm looking for? I find it, I can't use the word coincidence because in the paranormal we don't believe in coincidences. But I find it coincidence that I'm reading this, and everything you're speaking about aligns with what I've been reading, you know, and it kind of lets you know you're on that right path of understanding what we're meant to do on the bigger scale of things, the bigger picture.
Right. Yeah, and everybody, you know, it's like the wheel, you know, the center of the wheel. We just, and our own unique time too. You know, sometimes we need to spend more, you know, pain or fear that we have. We've all done it. I've done it, you know, and we just need to spend more time, you know, I call it like marinating in it for a while. And when we're sick of being tired and sick, we deal with it.
Yeah. Well, we do have a
But
few
we're
more.
really coming into a place where at the very beginning. Sure.
Sorry, I think we have a
Go ahead.
little bit of delay, so sometimes if there's a brief moment, we might talk over it. But we do have a few more questions about general energy work. However, just for the sake of time, we might come back to those later. So for now, why don't we talk a little bit about your practice of Reiki, which you brought up previously. So you mentioned, you know, being able to feel energy and chakras and blockages. A lot of people have heard of Reiki, but very few actually understand it and how it works and how things work on your end. So can you explain it in kind of layman's terms for those who are interested in it?
Sure. So Reiki, Reiki is an energy healing tool, and in energy healing, we are not actually the healers. We are just channeling energy from source, from the divine source, you know, of divine source energy, really, to a person, which allows them to bring healing to themselves on whatever level that they need it. So because it's divine energy, it has an intelligence all of its own and will do the work in coordination with the person. So it's just a channeling of energy, many modalities of energy work. I do Reiki as well as a number of other modalities. Most of the time, it's just a laying of hands or within somebody's energy field, which could be a foot and a half, sometimes 3 feet of energy. And so the healing can occur on the emotional, the mental, astral level, or the physical level. So we just allow the energy to go where it's needed and allow the energy to dictate that. So for some people who are sensitive to energy, they may actually feel some shifting going on. Some other people may not, and that's perfectly okay. It doesn't mean that nothing is taking place, but it's very, very subtle. It's very gentle. People often feel very peaceful afterwards. So it's very different for everybody, and how they receive it, but they have to want to receive it for it to actually for them to be open to it, you know, because people ultimately are responsible for their own energy. So, and the cool thing about Reiki and other energy tools is it can be sent to people. for instance, in the hospital or what have you. It doesn't need to be hands-on. Um, and when COVID hit, um, I stopped doing sessions in person, both energy healing and my soul alchemy sessions. Because within the soul alchemy sessions, there's a lot of energy um, that I'm channeling, and I don't need to touch people. So I've been doing that over the computer, over Zoom sessions, and it's the same energy. People feel it. So that's how energy works, and it works for anybody. But everybody has their own, unique energy too. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want me to go next? I mean, next up, or
Yes, you are.
all right. So, do you believe that everyone should have Reiki at least once, or only those who feel though their energy truly needs it? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think there's any shoulds in the world. I think if
Hmm.
people are called to a particular energy system, they may wish to try it. But what I would say is that it's beneficial for people um, to sort of use their own discernment about who they go to and what modalities they need. So whether it's Reiki or healing touch or pranic healing or any kind of healing, whether there's no name to it and it's just somebody offering channeled healing, that they should always use their own personal discernment to decide who's right for them and what modality is right for them. So if they get a recommendation to go to somebody, their friend had a great experience with them, it doesn't mean that person's energy is in alignment with them. So I would just recommend that they tap into their own internal intuition, because our intuition is really our main um, GPS, for making decisions. And we're really being called to use our intuition more and more for ourselves and not give our power to somebody else to make decisions for us. So that's the only thing I would recommend.
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
Trust your gut, people. Trust your gut.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
What I would
Okay.
like to see people do is to, if people want to experience how to do energy healing themselves, if they take a class in it, that's when you start learning what energy feels like. That's made a huge difference in my life, when I started that. Who would think that you can feel knots and, you know, cloudy energy in somebody's energy field without touching them, or with touching them?
Mhm.
So that opens up a whole new world for people. That I would recommend, but it has to be when people are ready and if they feel it's right for them.
Definitely.
That is interesting, though. That
Yeah.
piques my curiosity, personally. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm over here like,
Always.
oh, I love it. Okay, next question. It's a doozy, so I might have to read some of this. So don't judge me.
She's rubbing her hands.
I'm getting ready.
Let's do
All
this.
right. So, as paranormal investigators, we find that hauntings or other types of paranormal activity tends to happen more uh, with people who are maybe more sensitive to energy over others. So, what we would do as a group is recommend something like Reiki or spiritual classes so that they could understand or better understand their gifts. So, can you explain the importance of learning how to recognize and understand one's gift?
You know what? It's really through a process of experiencing different things. And like I said, using their own intuition and internal GPS for guidance. What I do often, what I've done through my journey as a spiritual student, and I'm always a student. I'm forever a student. Even though I'm a teacher, I'm always learning new things. I'm always tapping into what other people are doing, and I take classes quite a bit. There's times I take a break from it, but what I would recommend is just to try different, experiment with, energy healing classes or psychic development classes or whatever people want to learn. The Akashic Records, when I teach those classes, people break out quite a bit because through the class they clear a lot of their stuff, through the class, so it opens up to gifts. And so that's what many classes will help people do. And oftentimes I find that some people are sort of specialists in one particular area or two particular areas. And then other people are kind of like, they're creating an energy stew where they take so many different modalities, they throw it in the pot and it becomes their own stuff. That's what I've done. That's just the path that I've chosen. But I know people who are specialists as psychics or mediums or angel readers or what have you. So to me, I would recommend energy healing classes and psychic development kind of classes just to understand what energy feels like and how you can sense it, how you can sense your angels around you, your spirit guides around you, and understand that we're not alone. We're constantly supported and guided. But the rule in the spiritual world is they cannot interfere with our free will. So we have to ask for their help, and then they're happy to help us. So that's what I would recommend. And I would also say, by the way, that it's really important. One of the things I used to do is I would ask my guides to bring to me a teacher of a particular energy that I wanted to learn. If you want to learn shamanism, ask your spirit guides to bring to you the right shamanistic teacher, the right shaman to teach you, for instance. And you'll find that, you'll meet a friend a week later who will mention a teacher, or you'll find that you see something in the paper and it just calls you. So
that is 100% a real thing.
I've
done it before. I'll say like, why, I want this to come to me or whatever. And then I'll notice, but it starts trickling in like weeks later. I'll be like, it's like, oh, you are listening.
Yeah.
It's funny. Aside from that, though, do you believe that ignoring one's gifts could be detrimental to somebody?
You know what? I don't want to say anything is detrimental. I think the right way to put it is, first we get sort of this whisper in the ear that guides us, and we have free will, so we can say no.
Right.
Because I got the nudgings for years to do certain things, to go certain places, to take certain classes before, I heard that voice outside of me that said, take Reiki. And I didn't listen to it. And that is perfectly fine because there's no judgment from the spiritual world. There's only judgment from the human mind. So that's why the detrimental is kind of a word of judgment in a way, But what I will say is the whispers that we get, which are just the slightest inclination to take one path over another, take one job over another, or go to one place over another, those kind of nudgings that we get, If we don't respond to that, the internal voice will get louder. And if we continue not to listen to it, we might have a more challenging situation that will bring us face to face with the next step in our journey. But I can tell you for sure, there is no judgment from spirit, because there's no time in the spiritual world. It's a human concept that's not actually real, but it gives us some structure, to live by in our human lives, because that's what we have to do, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
I always say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And time is very hard for some of us, isn't it?
What is time? That's what Brittany always likes to say. What is time?
I know. I don't get it either. I just don't know time very well. Obviously, I had this scheduled for an hour later, I think.
Listen, I'm gonna blame everything as of late on Mercury retrograde.
There you go.
That's what's happening. I can't. That's funny.
I forgot I was in Mercury retrograde, but
Definitely. Well, we're almost to the tail end of it, so we've almost got
yeah,
First part.
Getting there.
So that kind of leads us into our next topic, which is something that I know has brought a lot of attention and interest to people as of late, and that is one of the things that you focus on is the Akashic Records, which is brought up a few times, and it's actually kind of funny because the other day while I was working, I had the TV on in the background, and it was a really old episode of Charmed.
Uh-huh.
And we're talking about the Akashic Records, because somebody found kind of a tablet that was supposed to unlock them or something. And I was like, this is so funny, and this is such a sign for our Q&A Friday, because, like, I've never seen that.
What are the chances, right?
Yeah, exactly. So speaking to the effect of the Akashic Records, in your words, could you describe what they are?
Sure. So the Akashic Records Akasha is a Sanskrit word for air or everything, right? And so the Akashic Records are really, I like to say, it's the story of our soul's journey. And so what that means is we have, and this is my belief, I don't want to pass this off onto anybody else, but so people can take whatever they resonate with and leave the rest. But we live multiple lives, and because we as humans think of things in linear terms, we see them as past lives, one after the other. But they're actually happening all at the same time, because that's actually how energy really, really works. But for our human mind, we refer to past life, present life, and future lives. So the Akashic Records is an energetic library that holds all the stories of those lifetimes. And as we're on our journey to find our divine selves, rediscover our divinity within, right? Because it's the God within. It's not the God sitting on a cloud somewhere, or the source energy. It's the God within that we're finding. We can go back to these stories that we've contained from other lifetimes that may be causing us, creating blocks in our current life. For instance, whether they were contracts with somebody else, or some kind of loss that we experienced in another lifetime that is presenting itself in a different kind of way now. For instance, the loss of a loved one, or extreme poverty in another lifetime, and it shows up in this lifetime as having challenges with money all the time, or fear of losing money. And so what we do with the Akashic Records is we explore those, what I call soul stories, and we heal them. in a very compassionate way. And so I guide people through a journey on healing. However, spirit wants to work through me is how we do it. And then we bring forth healing. And what that does is it brings forth healing for not only that other lifetime, but all the other lifetimes within our soul's experience. And sometimes those stories that we heal are actually ancestral patterns. So if you think about, like in I'm half Irish, and so the energy that's been brought with me, or the potato famine, for instance, and those kinds of stories that we each have in our own unique families. Um, we have ancestors that were in the Depression, so whatever they experienced, we have ancestors perhaps who experienced war and famine and the Holocaust or whatever else, and there might be some residual energy that we're still carrying. If we heal that for ourselves, it's healed for our ancestors in the past and our ancestors who have yet to come.
So it's basically one's story from beginning to end,
Yeah,
energetically.
in their soul's journey. Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Oh, we have some questions. How exciting. What would you think is the best way for one to learn how to control energies that may make an open sensitive show the emotion they're feeling? Let's try to research that a bit.
Yeah.
Let's,
What would you think is the best way how to control it?
Oh, so I think what they mean is, so a person who possibly is like empathic and could be up on someone else's emotion, what's the best way to learn how to, make sure they're not being affected by another's emotions? Is that how you guys are taking that?
Okay, is that how you're reading it? So to control your energy so you're not affected by others is really learning how to hold the light. And it's really, if you imagine a lighthouse is always on, it's always working, no matter what's going on, no matter what storm is happening, no matter the weather. And if we continually remind ourselves that we are the lighthouse, what happens is, you can imagine that light within, you know, sort of just holding it in your space, but also shining out. I think you had mentioned that earlier, Gail, that light shining out, so that the energies of those people that are out there, don't really affect you. Now, it takes a lot of practice, and I have to work at that constantly. I also use the violet flame, which is beautiful, beautiful energy, where you can imagine the violet flame um, just actually coming into you. You can imagine being created, just a violet flame in the center of your being, and just growing and growing and growing till it encompasses your entire physical body and your auric system, and asking it and setting the attention to burn away any lower energies. And so that's really important to do. I do that over and over again. I actually see it as a violet vortex more than a fire. But you can also see the violet flame as something outside of you that you toss any thoughts or emotions into it that aren't of the highest value for you. So those are ways to do it. I always tell people to take a regular salt baths, and that could be with Epsom salt, 2 cups of Epsom salt. You can put some little bit of Arm& Hammer baking soda in there as well. And if you like oils, scented oils, you put it, maybe 10, 15, 20 drops of oil in the salt before you pour it into the water. And do that once a week, 3 times a week if you need to. And just sit in a warm bath for 20 minutes. You feel much more clear that way. And then finally, there's always meditation. and giving up the energies to your divine I am presence over and over and over again.
Mhm.
It's
I-
work that we all have to do regularly.
I think a lot of more general paranormal terms, people say shielding, put up your shielding, that kind of thing. So you cleanse and then you shield.
Mm-hmm.
And the shielding is what kind of protects you from getting intruded upon from time to time. I do want to say, when you brought up the salt baths,
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple bad experiences with my condo that resulted in flooding. And Brittany
Oh,
actually
that's funny.
these really cool, they're like salt, I don't want to use the word bombs, but you use them in the shower. And so if somebody doesn't have a tub, if they just have like a stall shower at home,
Right.
the warm water from the shower hits these little things in the bottom of the shower, and it releases like the oils and the salt and everything.
Yeah.
Shower steamers.
And there's a crystal in the middle of it.
Oh, nice, of course.
Is
Yeah.
that from you, Brittany?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to get some. What are they called again?
Oh, I don't make them, but I think I got those from Urban Outfitters.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if you look up, I think shower steamers, they should come up. Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
saw that and I was like,
for people who don't have baths, you can get just a regular, dish pan or whatever and put your feet in it.
mm, that's
So, watch TV, or better yet, meditate for 20 minutes and have your feet in the bath. So that's another way to do it.
That's a great idea.
there's always a way.
Yeah.
And also using nature is another way to do it.
Yes.
Going out, obviously we can't do that now here in the East Coast and walk barefoot.
Right.
But when I take walks in nature, I'll set out the intention to find, a tree that I feel called to, and I'll just put my hands on the tree, sometimes even my forehead. If nobody's looking, of course. And I'll just ground my energy with the tree. And in the winter, I bring in pine cones and pine needles in the house. And obviously, I use a lot. My house is filled with crystals that sometimes I just need to hold and work with. So there's many ways to deal with those energies.
Yeah. See, got one. Got two. Yes.
I didn't bring any down here with me.
Oh,
they're on my
boy. I got them on my wrist too. Yeah.
What are you wearing? Oh,
I have rainbow fluorite, amethyst, and I think this is onyx.
oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so selenite is a clearing crystal, orgonite is a clearing crystal, and my new favorites are andorras. If you've ever
heard of that.
They're fifth dimensional crystals. They are powerful. They're really powerful, and they're glass-like, but they clear themselves like selenite does. But they're quite powerful.
Nice. Britt, were there any more questions from get to right now? Okay.
Not yet.
So then we're gonna hop back to the Akashic Records, and I think Kimmy had our next question.
Yes. So when doing an Akashic record reading, does it look the same for everyone, or does it depend on the energy of the person who you are reading?
Everybody has their own individual Akashic records. And just like as humans, we're all unique.
Right.
So are our records, so are, which is reflective of who our soul is or what our soul is. So everybody is unique. But we also have, there's many kinds of records. There's records for epicedium, for instance, right? Your business, there's a specific records for your business.
That's so cool. Yeah, I know, right? Right.
My brain just melted.
It's really mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Did you watch it? I was like,
I think we all had the same reaction to that. Like, okay,
Yeah,
so
like,
person,
whoa.
your own records, and then every entity or every
Yeah. Any energy that married couples have their own, Akashic records. Families have their own Akashic records. When I went looking for a house, I moved here about 4.5 years ago, because it's a public, it's a private home. or that I was looking at, but because it was put for sale, you can access the records. So I would do that when I was looking at homes to feel which house was the right house for me.
Wow.
When
That's
I've changed jobs, when I used to work in corporate, I would do a reading for myself. You know, all of my decisions I take back to the Akashic Records, all of them, all major ones anyway. And
I think you
sometimes
should
a lot
put
of
that
small
on
ones.
the website as one of your services that you'll go with people house hunting to help them.
There you go.
Yeah.
You'll clear the energy, and I'll do the reading.
There you
I
go.
like it.
Yep.
I like it.
Plan.
That's actually amazing. I think we all
I
had
have
a
to,
mind blow moment at the same time when you said that. We were all like,
Yeah.
I have to tell you a story about a reading I did for. It was a colleague of mine, so it was just a reading. She wanted to buy her son a car. She had limited amount of money, and we did a reading on this car that he really, really wanted, and it wasn't at the price that she. It was a little bit higher than what she was willing to pay or could afford. And so we did the reading on, I think, a Monday or Friday, maybe. And so I did a reading on the whole car. And I don't know all the parts of the car, but she apparently did. So I would just tell her, ask, tell me about the parts of the car, and I would get an understanding of, the transmission and the engine and all of that, and get a sense of the condition of the overall car using the VIN number. So I was tuning into the specific car that she was looking at. And then she asked, do you think I can get this price down to whatever she wanted to get it down to? And I remember the response was, no, something like by Thursday, he'll hold this price at whatever price it was, and then it's going to be gone. And so Thursday came and went, and it was gone. She didn't take up his offer for sort of a lowered price, but it wasn't low enough for her, and the car was gone Thursday afternoon. You know, so that was kind of interesting. That was the first time I had done that or tried that.
it's super interesting.
It
Cool,
is.
though.
But like I said, most of the Akashic Records is really for the bigger questions, in life and the deeper questions, but you can use it for other really useful things too.
Sounds like it.
I love it.
Britt, I think you had the next question.
Yes. So for these readings, is it more than just past lives? And do you find that everyone has past lives?
Yeah, I do. And it's definitely more than past lives. A matter of fact, I think maybe 20% of readings, if that, I go into past lives. Because what's happened is over time, my energy has shifted, my relationship with spirit has shifted, and how spirit chooses to work with me and through me has shifted. So generally what happens is I'll enter into somebody's records, and I'll get a sense of their energy. And a lot of times what happens is I go right into channeling, and spirit will start talking through me to give a message to the individual. Sometimes the channeling comes later. And and there's other things that I do within my sessions, and that's why I now call it Akashic / soul alchemy, because there is channeling energy. There are activations often for people. Sometimes I use sacred geometry. A lot of times I'm speaking in light language using my hands. So my hands are moving in a way that I'm aware of most of the time, but I don't have a sense that I'm not consciously moving my hands in that way. It's just very natural. And so some people speak like language. Mine is more through the hands, which creates a mind-heart connection in one way that I use it. In another way, it just bypasses the mind, goes straight to the heart. So what that does is it helps support energetic shifts for the individual, to higher levels of consciousness, or to break through some, you know, blockage, to moving forward. And so every session is very different. Sometimes it's all channeling, other times it's partly channeling, and then we deal with whatever issues people want to either heal, understand, or transform. And we deal with that by, oftentimes, spirit will take them through a guided journey to go through healing, to heal that part of them that's holding that pain or upset.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
every session is different, and that's why I do it for an hour and a half, because once we get into it, it's very difficult for me to do half-hour sessions, actually, because um, there's so much that we can offer that takes more than half an hour.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like really deep therapy, like down to the core in a way.
Yeah, it's really core work, because that's our soul.
Yeah.
You know. So if there's a past life that we need to go back and heal, we heal that. But like I said, it's going to heal it for all lifetimes, including this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So do you find that when you tap into people's records and energy, do you find that in this point in the status of the world that there are more old souls out there as opposed to younger souls, like those who have lived that many lifetimes here on Earth?
well, what I will say is people who are drawn to the Akashic Records are generally old souls. Um, what I want to say is, has been on a path, or about to get on their or path of a conscious spiritual journey. So we're all on our spiritual path, whether we're aware of it or not. But the people that generally are called to Akashic sessions are desiring something that they don't know what they're desiring. They feel like they're missing something in their life, or they're really well into their path. So it's people who are consciously wanting, to further their spiritual path. So what I will say a caveat, because you're talking about old souls and new souls. I will tell you there are very new souls right now on the planet who are very, very advanced beings. So in the past, I think we could refer to old souls and new souls, and now there's very new souls that are very young, who are very advanced. You know, these are children who have come into life without karma that we've all had to deal with, right? We've all had to push through a lot of karmic stuff for ourselves and for the collective. These children don't, so they come in knowing a whole lot. You've heard of children who are aware of, I just saw a headline the other day in the news that a child became aware of a past life, and knew exactly where he died. And they uncovered this body, and he could tell, the researchers, the name and all of that.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And there was a child a number of years ago, quite a number of years ago. He's probably a teenager now, but he was very young. And I think he was like 6 or 7. And there's a book written about him. But he knew he was a fighter pilot in, I think it was World War II.
Mm-hmm.
He gave very specifics to his parents about the plane and where he was. And they did a little investigative work and found out he was accurate. So they did this whole, this whole research, and he ended up meeting some of the survivors of his colleagues in the army.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah. There's that show recently. It's a mini series on Netflix. What was the name of it?
Describing death.
Surviving Death, where they actually had like 1 or 2 episodes that discussed that. Children remembering past lives. And for some reason, it seemed like a pretty steady pattern around the age of 6 or 7. Start to forget those past life memories. That was very interesting. I remember in the one, it was a little boy, and he remembered his parents, the house he lived in, the park he played. And there was a gentleman who was a professor who did this for a living as a study. And he showed up to their house, and he had pictures of 3 men, 3 women, 3 parks, 3 houses. And he asked each time, which was yours? And he got every single one correct to match the life of who he claimed was him previously.
Wow.
And it was intriguing, because it's like statistically that just doesn't happen.
Right.
Well, a lot of the truths of the universe are coming out, more and more. We're going to see more of that. We're going to see more, we're going to see more proof of that. So for an adult to say, this is my past life, people can easily discount it because they could have done research. But it's really, really hard to do that when a 6-year-old makes these claims that, have been tied to, history in some way. So we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more proof of life beyond the human realm, more and more, as we open our eyes more, and if we choose to open our eyes more. For people who don't want to or aren't ready for that, that's perfectly okay. They may not experience that, but that's perfectly fine. We all come to it in our own time. But
So
that's what's so special about being here at this time right now,
Definitely.
So past life regression could perhaps be a form of the most intense therapy a person could have. Can you explain how past life experiences or trauma could affect us in this lifetime?
So what happens is when we have an unresolved issue in another lifetime, we bring it into the next lifetime. And like I said, I'm talking in linear terms, but we bring it into the next lifetime and we can bring it into multiple lifetimes. So the energy or the issue will be there until we, deal with it head on and heal it. Because every issue that we challenge or blockage or whatever you want to call it that we deal with, the uncovering of it is really like opening a present on Christmas morning. There's a lesson and a wisdom and a healing to be received if we choose to look at it like that. So once we deal with whatever that issue is, say in one lifetime, we were a woman who had a husband that died, right? And we lived a life of, fear and sadness and grief for the rest of our lives. We may come into this lifetime dealing with the issues of abandonment and rejection and perhaps grief. And it will show up in either similar ways or very different ways. We may choose a family that rejects us for who we are over and over again. We may choose romantic partners that reject us and abandon us. And so we have the sense of that we're not lovable, we're rejectable, for instance. And until we deal with that issue and look at that part of us that's hanging on to that energy, at that point when we're ready to do that, we can release that. So I do that kind of work both with the Akashic Records, but I also do it with hypnosis.
Okay.
Depending on how people want to work with that, whether it's in a light hypnotic state, and then we have them heal that in both journeys, they can heal that on their own with guidance from me and from spirit. And it's really a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's one of the most powerful forms of healing that you can have. That and inner child work are the most powerful healings I've experienced.
It once again brings you back to that core therapy in a way.
Right.
Going back to your inner essence, your pure energy, that core energy that you've been kind of absorbing and releasing over the course of how many lifetimes. And it's kind of, you kind of have to clean through it to understand it.
Yes,
Does that kind of make sense?
that's
At
perfect.
the surface.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfectly stated.
Miss Brittany.
All right. So, in terms of past life regression, does it typically require one session that you find, or does it depend on the client and what they're trying to accomplish?
It really depends on what they're trying to accomplish. If it's, you know, so what people do is I usually talk to people on the phone before to find out what it is that they want. A lot of times people will call me and they'll see my list of services, which is usually they look at hypnosis, the Akashic soul alchemy, and now offer soul realignment, which is another form of healing soul wounds. And we talk, and from there I recommend what I think is best for them. And if it's past life, I'll get a sense of how they might want to receive the information, whether it's me getting the story from working in the records, or if they'd like to experience it firsthand themselves. So, and even in the Akashic Records, oftentimes I have them experience a level of connection with that past life to heal it, but it depends on how they want to deal with it. And even hypnosis, I do remotely, it works the same. So, if people want to, for instance, work on the rejection issue, that's usually a one session thing. But sometimes in the session or after the session, they go, "Oh my gosh, that was so much fun," or "I feel so much better. I want to deal with X, Y, and Z issue now."
Mm.
So,
It's addicting, is what it is.
in an hour and a half, you heal. And it's not just the services that I offer. Other people offer different services, and it's amazing how much you can heal in an hour or an hour and a half. And so you just feel so much better. And when we release it, when we release this energy that we're kind of holding on to, because that's what pain and fear and trauma looks like. It's this, fist of energy. When we release that, it's like energy from source just flows more, and we're filled up automatically with more light. And a matter of fact, in the process, I make sure that we do that. We fill that space up with more light from God, divine source.
So when you've been performing these sessions in the past, one term that's become not, I don't want to say common, but kind of popular amongst the spiritualist community is the term starseed. And starseed is basically, they say, people whose past lives have taken place on different planets, and they have come here for whatever purpose, their lesson or soul evolution they're trying to accomplish for this time. Have you ever read anyone who's had past lives not of the earth?
Many people. There's many more than we realize.
Yeah.
There's many, many more than we realize. And, there was a call out to light workers and star beings to come to humanity at this time. For many years prior, to come to Earth to help humanity shift. And we all have different roles and different, you can sort of kind of group the role of the different groups of times people came into the world, what their role was. Um, Dolores Cannon has a book called The Three Waves. I forget what the Three Waves of Humanity or something like that. And it talks about the first wavers and the second wavers and the third wavers. And so the first wavers are really setting, almost plowing the fields. And the second wave are planting the seeds. And the third waves are bringing in, higher energy or essence in a way. And all of them have their roles, bringing in higher levels of frequencies than is available to humanity or was available to humanity at the third dimension. So these
Yeah.
are fifth dimensional beings or higher coming to Earth. And they all come to Earth or many of them come to Earth in human form.
Wow.
This is actually not the first time I've heard. Well, I don't want to say that you said it this way, but like I've kind of gotten the impression from other people who are able to tap into galactic beings and higher powers that the human race is like we're infants, right? And we don't get it. We're like the babies of the universe where we're just like, what's happening? I don't understand. And all these as you say, like light workers and higher dimensional beings are almost coming here because we're like those toddlers you see playing outside that are like about to like stick their finger in a light socket, They're like, don't do that.
That's a great analogy. It really is. Yeah, it's there's quite a bit of interaction. We're multidimensional beings. We have 10 or more levels of dimensions for our own self. So we're discovering that. Humans were brought in at the third dimension, which is the dimension of, sorrow and fear and, suffering and all of that. And as we're evolving with the earth, we're evolving to the fourth and many of us or some of us to the fifth dimensional energies, which is more wisdom, which is understanding our own divine source within. That there's a beautiful saying, it's my favorite Rumi poem that says, let me just get this straight, it's my favorite one, and I always have to think about it. We are not a drop in the ocean, we're the entire ocean in a drop. And that really perfectly defines us as divine beings. And so we can actually reach up to our fifth or seventh or 10th dimensional selves and bring that energy down and forward. And so for those of us who know that, we do that. And that's light that we can bring in, and we're operating at higher states of consciousness when we do that.
So in that regard, when you're doing energy activations for people or just healings or readings, I know that you work with angels, you brought them up before, you mentioned Saint Germain. Do you sometimes have other entities like deities, gods, goddesses, aliens, or that also assist in your energy work?
Yeah, very much so. We're quite a bit with, I'm working quite a bit lately with like Divine Mother energy, but the goddess Isis. Aphrodite is very, very present right now as one of the divine feminine beings, because the divine feminine energy is very present right now. So yeah, there's many gods and goddesses that are present and working with us quite a bit. So yeah.
Awesome. It's good to know we have help around us.
Yes.
A lot of help. I tell you, when I open the records for people, a lot of times I'm always feeling the love, always feeling the love. And I actually fall in love with everybody I do sessions for. And I've probably told you guys this, but because I fall in love with them because I see them as spirit sees them. And it's only from love, and it can only be from love, you know? So I fall in love with everybody.
You
And
make me want to cry right now. I feel like crying. I don't know why. No, honestly, I feel like that. I
Go
feel,
with the flow, Kimmy. Go
go
with
with
the
the
flow.
yeah.
flow, yeah.
Wow.
So because I see everybody's love, it's just we're in different places in our life, you know. We're all we're divine beings, but we also have dark and light within us, and it's all okay. It is all okay. We've been fighting this, our duality, for so long, and we've been thinking we have to be light, that when we show up in our darkness and our pain or our fear or our suffering, you know, we condemn ourselves. And really what we need to do is accept the darkness, because it just gets pulled into the light and gets transmuted and transformed in ways that we can't imagine. So when I open the records for people, oh my God, the love. And there's laughter too. I don't know if I've had that with you guys, but I so wouldn't be surprised with you, Brittany, because I think they love your antics. You know, so
Oh yeah.
sorry to call you out there, but you know, sometimes I just hear laughter because they get such a kick out of like some of the antics that the person, you know, goes through in their daily life, you know, and sometimes they're just plain entertaining. So there's never any judgment. It's only love and joy that I feel from them. And, you know, and Spirit has quite the sense of humor. I mean, I've always heard from them that we need to laugh more, you know, and there is a lot of laughter up there, by the way, up there, in that realm, I should say.
I think right now everyone is so just distracted and enthralled by everything going on in the world right now. And, you know, the beginning of last year, I think there was a lot of people who could tap into energy that was saying they felt something big coming, something was about to happen, and then the pandemic hit. And a lot of people, I feel, got very focused on that.
Mhm.
And it caused a lot of tension, a lot of disagreements, and a lot of negativity in the world. And sometimes just having a conversation like this, where you realize that we all have the ability to be kind and be patient and listen to each other. It's okay if you're angry, but at the same point, take a step back and focus and tap into, you know, the light as well. So
Mhm.
as a self-healing mechanism.
Yes.
I feel like as a whole, if everybody could just take a step back and take that deep breath and just, okay, let's refocus
Right.
and empathize, we
Yeah.
would probably get a lot farther in the world than we are right now.
You know, that's so beautifully stated, Gail. It really is. You know, you're spot on with that. Because when challenges like that show up, there's a lot of pain with change often. And this is all of humanity that's affected by COVID. All of humanity. It's not like an earthquake or a tidal wave where one part of the world is affected and not the rest of the world. Everybody is affected by this. And most people, or a lot of the percentage of people in the world, know of people who have been affected by COVID. So it's a very, very difficult and sensitive thing. But when we take a step back, you know, we really have two choices, and it's to feed into the fear, or we can go into the, you know, finding our inner strength, finding our inner light, our inner power, and being with that, because we're kind of, humanity's on a timeout in a way, and it has given people pause to do some, some going within and saying, what's going on in my life? What's working? What's not working? What do I want to change? And how do I want to show up in the world? And what's stopping me from doing that? And those are really big questions that we can ask ourselves, because we can't heal the world overnight. And we have to, the more of us that get into the place of faith, because fear is the antithesis of faith. When we're in fear, that's the antithesis of faith, and that's showing us we're out of alignment with love, because there really are only two energies, and it's love and fear. So it's showing us where we need, what part of ourselves, what story we have that we've been telling ourselves that we need to heal or bring love to.
Yeah.
I feel like when a lot of people hear the word faith, they automatically align that with some type of religion.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people just need to have that in themselves and use the word faith to tap into their higher being and the higher presence that's around them. And sometimes when it's easy religiously to put labels on that, and sometimes people just need to be open to it generally, instead of saying have faith in this religion or that. Just have faith that in you and the bigger picture of it all, and sometimes that's enough.
Yeah, like I said, there's different, if you look at a wheel, there's spokes to the wheel, and, we're all going to the same place. We just choose what's comfortable for us. For some, it is religion to help walk the path. I know, I know very many people who are so faithful in their religion, and it's so, they get so much comfort and support from it. And then there's other people who are spiritual people who don't believe in a particular religion. They may subscribe to a particular belief that is part of a group belief, or it's their own personal beliefs, and we're all going to the same place. We just take different paths to get there, and they're all okay. They're really all okay. It's whatever we resonate with, and and I think that the question is, am I on the path of love, or am I believing in a set of belief systems that are fear-based? That's really the question to ask.
Is there anything you do to try and make sure who you're talking to in spirit is not something trying to trick you?
So thank you for that question, Ronnie. What I do is I always ground myself, and I do connect with my divine I am presence, my higher self, my divine self. And in that relationship that I have that is very strong, I don't subscribe to um, I don't subscribe to any beliefs of fear that I can be attacked in any way at all. I just don't subscribe to that. Um, I know many people who use prayers of, prayers of protection. I have a great prayer of protection. I meant to bring it with me, but I can. If anybody wants to email me. My email is your soul springs SOUL springs with an S at gmail.com. So it's your soul springs at gmail. Just email me and I'll send you a beautiful prayer if you choose to use it for protection. Another way is to put up a shield of energy, and see yourself protected. But ultimately, I don't know, I don't really believe, I used to do that, but I really believe that if we feel we need protection, then the underneath feeling is that there's some fear that we need, that there's something bad out there. And the second thing I want to say is when we talk about energies attacking us, the way energy works is there has to be resonance with that energy. So if we raise our frequency high enough, that's protection in itself. And raising our frequency is through meditation, is through prayer, is through yoga, is through Tai Chi, is through um, saying the rosary. I'm really into saying the rosary lately. It's the energy I'm experiencing with that is tremendous. And I grew up Catholic, and I never said the rosary, and now I'm not a practicing Catholic, and I fell in love with the rosary somehow. So those are different things that you can do. Whatever feels right to you, those are some good options.
Thank you for that question, Ronnie. Kimmy, I think you had the next question up on our list.
Yes. So for people who can't receive communication from their spirit guides, when they ask on the spot, what approach do you recommend?
What I recommend for people is to ground themselves again. Just sit quietly. It doesn't have to be for long. You can do this for 5-10 minutes, and just ground their energy. And by that I mean find a quiet place. You might want to light a white candle, for instance, and then just take a few deep breaths in, close your eyes, and just imagine from the base of your root chakra, which is the base of your spine, and from the bottom of your feet, just imagine energy. And you can see it as golden cords or roots like a tree being just sent down to the center of the earth. And as you breathe in and breathe out very gently, just send the intention to let go through those cords of energy, any lower energies that no longer serve you. And then just imagine yourself connecting to the center of the earth, the heart of the earth, which is really, really pure energy. So you can even imagine an anchor going down through all the beautiful layers of the earth, the crystal layers, and so on. And then as you breathe up, you can breathe in the pure energy of the earth back up into your legs and back into your heart center. And then the next thing you would do is just imagine your energy going up to your soul star, your divine I am presence, put a foot above your head. And just kind of opening the door to that and allowing that beautiful white light to come down through the top of your head, your crown, and meeting the earth energy at your heart center. And so you have this balance of, heaven and earth energies. So you have the groundedness of the earth and you have the ethereal energies of the higher energies. And then you can just ask for guidance. And if people are starting out, I usually tell them to use a pen, because if you're writing, it gives your conscious mind, your lower self, something to do, something to focus on and to get out of the way so you can get divine inspiration. And you'll find that over time, if you continually write without questioning your energy, keeping your energy in your heart center, not in your head, and just continually write, you might get some information. And another thing you can do is also just ask your divine I am presence to give you a message from your spirit guides or your angels. And what may happen is, as you go through your day, you may hear a song on the radio. You may see a billboard. Somebody may say something that just sends shivers up your spine. That you go, that's a message for me, because spirit works through other avenues all the time. You may see, I'll give you a perfect example. My niece, I'll give you, if you have time for two examples, I'll give you two examples.
Yeah.
So my niece, on the anniversary of the passing of my mother, who we called Mimi, my niece was driving home one time. She literally pulled into the wrong driveway somehow, and in front was a car with a license plate that said Mimi.
Oh,
Stop.
So yeah, and then,
validation right there. It was
yeah, right there, right. And so
technology.
those are just messages that we get. My other niece recently had two job offers that she was deciding between. And one was in a law firm, and one was working as a dispatcher for 911 and in a town. And so she asked for my guidance, and I wasn't going to tell her what I thought was best. I was helping her to, to ground herself and tap into her heart. And I said, so feel how the job at the law firm feels. Now feel how this other job feels. Well, it turned out she had the TV on, so she was distracted. I didn't know the TV was on. So we got off the phone, and she turned the TV off and did that later. Now, she felt a call into the law firm earlier that day, and she sat in her heart space. And minutes later, she heard an ambulance, a siren outside. And she said at that moment, she knew 100% in her heart that that was the decision for her.
Yeah.
And she started the job a few weeks ago, and she loves it. She is so happy with her decision. So that's how spirit works for us and through other people to give us signs and signals. We just have to be open to receiving it.
Exactly.
100.
Yeah. Open, listen, be aware, and it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
Like thing too, right? Like she heard a siren. I mean, that's not all of us get such,
Right.
in your face validation.
Right.
Sometimes it's as simple as like a feather that floats down in front of you,
Yes.
and some people might just shoo it away, and other people would be like,
Ooh, yeah.
that.
So true.
Mm-hmm. Just keep your eyes open, people. Keep them open.
Yeah, it's true.
Yours open too, for that matter.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so a good amount of people believe that aliens have been watching the Earth for some time now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say this is definitely the case. Do you think humans will have a greater chance of interaction with these beings sooner rather than later?
Absolutely, positively, yes.
Yes.
It's already happening. It's already happening.
Yeah.
I am here for it.
Many of us are connected to that realm, those realms, those beings. Very much so. It definitely is one of those areas that most people don't understand, and that people feel very in the closet about their experience with that. But there are a lot of beings of the light from other star systems, planets, galaxies, you name it, who are here to help bring in higher frequencies to help support the evolution of Gaia, of Mother Earth, and humanity. And let's face it, we need a lot of help because the experience of Earth has been very experimental in a lot of ways. And like I said, and there are a lot of eyes on what is happening on Earth right now for good reason. And the guidance I've received is that the support is tremendous, because what happens here on Earth will affect other star systems, other galaxies. There is a reverberation that goes way beyond what our minds can understand. So the transformation that we're going through, which we will be going through for many, many years, we're at the very beginning of this great change, which is amazingly awesome. It also can be very, very difficult. It really depends on the story you wish to hang on to, but it is a great it's a great gift to be here right now, and there's many people that will start seeing more and more of these beings, and I do understand that they will be making themselves more visible, but again, it has to be it's only going to be for people who are open to that. For people who are not ready for that, they may not see that, and that's perfectly okay. So the Lyrans, the Syrians, um, the Arcturians, the Andromedans, or however you want to say those from Andromeda, and many, many other star systems are very present and very supportive.
Good to hear, because you watch movies like Independence Day, and you're like, oh no, we're
Yeah, right. Well, you know what? Galactic beings are no different than human beings. It's we can see them as light or darkness. And we can see them in balance. And every being has their own evolutionary path to walk.
So you mentioned earlier, obviously, you're saying a lot of these galactic energies are helping us out right now. And you mentioned earlier, there was a call for light workers, and there's been eras in time where you've seen waves of help. In your expertise, do you find that there are certain people who are prone to tapping into those and do energy healing, or do you think anyone can do it if they just kind of tried?
I'm sorry, can anybody do energy healing? Is that what you're asking? Or yeah, anybody can do it. Again, it's going back to the analogy of the band. Anybody can play. All of us can play different instruments, but some of us are better at the flute than we are at the clarinet or the cello or the piano. And some of that is dictated by our passion.
Mm.
So it really depends on what we want to do. Because if we follow our passion, people ask me all the time, what am I supposed to do? And the answer always comes back, what do you want to do? Follow your passion. If you go to like, a Natural Awakenings magazine, for instance, and you look at offerings or places, spiritual places, and you don't know what to do, tap in. What lights your fire? What gives you shivers and makes your heart smile? That's where you go. That's where you follow, because that's where you're tapping into abundance by taking that door, opening that doorway. So yes, we all can do it. We are all divine souls. We are all meant to find our divinity. We are all meant to do whatever work we're passionate about, whatever it is that we came here to do. And ultimately, it is finding the love within, in a nutshell. And when we do that, the love goes out.
Spread the love.
Powerful.
It is. It really is. Oh. So, next question. One of your talents that you list on your website is somatic healing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit, I'm not very familiar
Mm-hmm.
with this form of healing. Can you describe it to us
Sure.
and the benefits of it?
Somatic healing, in a general sense, is self-healing.
Okay.
So, my work, in all of my work, no matter what I do, is I don't like the term healer. It makes me uncomfortable. But in the spiritual communities, we do refer, people refer to themselves or ourselves as healers. But really, what it is we're helping people tap into their own self healing, because we can't heal anybody. We just can't. There has to be agreement from that person that they want to heal. So we help guide them to that place to tap into that inner wisdom, that inner healer. So in somatic healing, I do both within the records, but I think way back when I listed that on my website, um, it was referring to the work that I do in hypnosis to help guide them to find the inner healer, um, to heal whatever physical issue they're experiencing. Because my experience is with all, or at least most physical ailments, there's an underlying emotional or spiritual energy that needs to be addressed. So again, the issue of rejection or not feeling loved may bring on, a physical issue. And really, when we look at the physical issue, it's really looking at the body is just talking to us and saying, "Hey, I need help here." So I help people bring their awareness to the inner healer, to bring healing to the physical level, but also the underlying blockages that might be at the emotional level. I actually healed a rotator cuff injury in somatic healing hypnosis.
Wow.
Yeah, it was in, maybe a 45-minute or hour session. So I was going for training in this many years ago. And I hurt my rotator cuff very badly. And it was just from pulling the seatbelt over. And I don't know what I did, but it was so painful. And I was working many long hours at work at the time. And I had been for physical therapy for other injuries before. So I knew the drill. It was 3 days a week and it would interrupt my life. And I wasn't willing to do that at that time.
Mhm.
So I walked around in intense pain at times, especially when I slept. It was so painful, I would scream out in my sleep. I still didn't go for help. So I went to this class and he asked for volunteers. And he was going to demonstrate to the class how to do somatic healing and hypnosis. And this was a man who worked with cancer patients. Um, and in 45 minutes, I was healed. So, in the state of hypnosis, which was a very light state of hypnosis, I was consciously aware of what was going on, but I didn't feel like I was consciously in control of what was going on. But I knew a deeper inner voice was controlling it, so I felt very, very safe. But I felt my arm actually go out, and I was kind of in a way in the back of my head, like watching this from this, like it was a spectator sport. And I felt my hand just turning in a way that I know consciously I could not turn it to that level.
Mm.
And then I heard this loud snap. It was like that. And all of the people sitting around me, I just heard gasps of air, and inside I was actually laughing because I knew it sounded loud and it sounded like it hurt, but it did not hurt at all. And what happened is whatever snapped into place, whether it was my shoulder or rotator, I have no idea the mechanics of it, but something snapped into place. The pain was gone.
Wow.
Wow.
It didn't hurt, but my body knew what to do to heal itself. That's how powerful the subconscious mind is and how powerful the body is.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Mind over matter, right?
Mind over matter. And I've seen this countless times in hypnosis, these kinds of healings. So
Awesome.
It really
Well,
is.
what were you saying, Britt?
It really is interesting.
It
Oh.
is, for sure.
Everything we've talked about tonight has been interesting.
I
What are you
know.
talking about? And on that note, we're running a little short on time. So we're going to kind of just wrap it up a little bit now. We like to end every Q&A that we have with what we call your oh shizzle moment. And what that moment you've had in your life where like you knew things were going on, whatever, but then this one thing happened where you were like, oh my God, this is real. Like this is a thing, people, this happened. Could you tell us your oh shizzle moment, please?
oh my God, I've had so many. The voice from outside of me, you know, talking, and I'm like, yeah, I got to take Reiki. I mean, that was one moment. You know, and the time that I discovered what the soul was, for me, brought me to my knees crying, because I was very aware when I was about 15 or so, 16, I kept seeing this audience in front of me, a big auditorium. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be speaking in front of a big audience. There's just no way. I was very shy back then, you know. I didn't want to be seen, you know. And so I had that image in my head. It never made sense to me. But I discovered the soul. That was kind of my shift moment, or shift moment, like you said, that brought me to my knees, and I knew that was my life's work. So there was probably a 35-year gap between all of that happening. So it was a very long period of time of what is that thing that I'm looking for. It took me a long time, you know. I wasn't aware of spiritual teachers and readers and stuff and all that time. So so I had to do a lot of that work on my own. So that was probably my biggest shift. And then there were many shifts that happened after that, where I discovered my close relationships with some ascended masters and archangels and galactic beings that kind of, you know, ignited that who me moment that we all get, you know, who me, little me, you know, that we all get. So
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for spending the last couple hours answering all of our questions.
Thank you.
For everybody watching and who might be watching this later on off our YouTube channel, please visit Lauri's website, which is soul-springs.com. It's on the bottom on the ticker there, and she's right now offering a free recorded meditation along with 50% off her services. So we highly recommend, please check out her website. It is 125 million% worth it. She's amazing. And thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Do hang on after we're going to finish up the live, but do hang on with us for just a few minutes afterwards. And to everybody watching live, thank you so much for taking the time and hearing our questions and participating. And we hope to see you all soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much, guys. Love you.
Okay.
Bye.